Good evening and welcome to another edition of Wealth Creation through Industrialization. I am Hadiza Olaosebikan. Tonight's program will be dedicated to events that took place on the sidelines of the recently concluded World Economic Forum for Africa that was held in Abuja. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, led by the Minister, Mr. Olaosebikan, and its Information and Communications Technology counterpart, Mrs. Mobolaji Johnson, organized a small and medium enterprises summit and exhibition tagged SME Summit. The SME Summit, which had two sessions, one session dealt with the development of SMEs through information and communications technology, as well as the development of SMEs in the ICT sector. The other session tackled access to affordable finance by SMEs in Africa and Nigeria in particular. Here are highlights of the summit as well as interactions that ensued. Happy viewing. The Summit on Small and Medium Enterprises, with the theme Enabling Private Sector-Led Growth Through Enhanced Engagement, Financing and Business Opportunities, was organized by the two collaborating development partners, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment and Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, to raise the level of engagement of African private sector and business associations with development institutions on issues of common interest and to work together to find solutions to common problems. The summit was anchored by entrepreneur of note, Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika, the Chief Executive Officer of Sokar Nigeria Limited. She set the ball rolling with her welcome remarks.
The sheer energy of youth that we have in our population will be very important. And understanding the role that technology can play when you look at companies like Kunga, within the short space of time that they've started operation, and they can ramp up from like 5-10 staff to like 500 within 12 to 15 months. It shows you where the future is. And you talk about traditional companies, and you see how long it takes them to get to those numbers. You also look at the quality of jobs that they create and the kind of payouts that goes to the kind of staff that they employ. You realize that you create more high-value workforce where technology is highly deployed. And of course, on the investment side, when you understand all of the work that the Minister of Trade Investment is doing in terms of the National Industrial Plan and all of those long-lasting agenda that they're deploying for the country, you understand that it's important that we anchor all of this on the back of an effective and progressive SME development activity. And so today is about looking at all the issues from the two sides, from the industry, trade and investment side, and from the support that ICT can provide to that.
The Executive Director of Business Development at the Bank of Industry, Mr. Wahid Olagunju, gave the opening remarks on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment.
This event could have come at a better time than now, because only about 3 months ago, the Nigerian government launched the Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan, as well as the National Enterprise Development Program called NEDEP. NEDEP is meant to address small businesses, how they can be improved. For example, the services sector now accounts for 52% of our GDP, while manufacturing has increased from about 4% that it was when our GDP was about 270 billion to now almost 7% with the rebased GDP of 510 billion US dollars. We are not happy in spite of the almost 50% growth because we are targeting double-digit growth in the manufacturing sector. So under the Ministry of Industry and Investment, we're trying to ensure the full development of Nigeria's financial value chain so that we be aligned with strata of the Nigerian economy, addressing the needs of those at the bottom of the pyramid and also those at the peak of the pyramid. One of the other steps we're trying to do is to ensure that we ring-fence SMEs around large corporates, such that we build them into the supply chain of large corporates. Those who process agricultural produce, for example, we try to link small and medium enterprises to those large corporates, the Nestle's of this world, the Honeywells of this world. The Bank of Industries currently policies are aligned with the tenets of NIRP and NEDEP. And as such, before we lend to such large corporates, we try to ensure that we identify small businesses that are ring-fenced around their operations. Well, in a nutshell, those are the elements we're talking about in the course of the panel, accessing financing by SMEs in Africa.
At the panel discussion, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investments, Mr. Olaosebikan, exposited on reasons for the establishment of Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan, NIRP, as well as National Enterprise Development Program, NEDEP.
And the whole idea is to look at what are the barriers to the development of this sector, and how do we remove those barriers? How do we address them? And we came up with about 7 or 8 points. One is about access to affordable capital and the diversity of that capital. When you look at the survey, any survey will tell you maybe less than 8 or 10% of the 17.25 million SMEs actually access capital from commercial banks or from any of the banks. Most of them rely on personal savings and friends, family and friends. So we need to address that. And one of the things we're trying to do to address the diversity is to develop the venture capital and private equity sector. They will bring in not just debt capital, they'll bring in equity capital because they'll be investing in those companies. And also, they'll bring in business support services. Government, like I think in Botswana, some of the government agencies invest in SMEs. I am not a strong believer that government should be investing in them. I'm a strong believer that we should have a strong venture capital private equity sector, well regulated, with the enabling environment for them, laws, regulations. Government should be partnering with them, giving them seed funding, which they will match and they invest in the sector. That is one way of migrating micro businesses or small businesses into small and growing businesses. Again, we don't have small and growing HTBs. We emphasize SMEs. Now, when I say that, what I mean by that is the fact that I want businesses that can employ people going forward, that can grow, that can become an export-oriented, that can be export-oriented companies in particular sectors. We can do that in agro-business. We can do that in ICT. There are several sectors where we can do that.
He also emphasized on the need for skills acquisition in the development of SMEs in the country and steps being taken by his ministry to create a robust skilled workforce.
Skills, very important to us. And very important to SMEs and even the larger players. So in every sector, we come with the policy, there's a strategy for developing skills. And the most important thing is a big reform of ITA. And of course, to be almost like the Sinai we have in Brazil, and SMEDAM to be like Sembra, which we have in Brazil. I mean, if you look at this World Economic Forum we are having here in Nigeria, it was Sembra doing this in Brazil, like the World Cup they were working on. When I went to see them, they had organized the small businesses to prepare for the World Cup. They had organized their drivers, helped them buy cars, and taught them, they're teaching them different languages, and organized them into people that will be taking the people around, but not just taking them around, but also educating them about the Brazilian economy. They started that more than 7 months ago. That is the way you plan ahead and do business. So this economic work forum should be an opportunity to make money. You fight to do it, not because you just want to do it and do something good with it. Well, you try to make money out of it as well. So ITF, when the process, we started the reform, the small skills we are talking about artisanal, so that's part of NEDEP as well. The idea is to have 6 artisanal schools across the country. President says he wants one in every state, but we will try and do that very quickly. We are tired, I'm tired of hearing that electricians, plumbers come from Benin Republic. We can't say that for 7, 8 years and do nothing about it, do something about it. So the idea is getting them, they organize them into SROs, self-regulatory organizations, give them funds to set up their businesses and run their businesses. That way you have specialized people, skills across the place that can be used and make sure that they have certification, and anyone who does not have that certification is not allowed to work in any public building. That way they get jobs to do as well, and you improve the quality of what you're trying to do. We want to make sure that the government allocates a percentage of its procurement to SMEs. Because all countries, even, I think it was Dubai that came up with a new policy recently, and it said, I think about 20% of the government expenditure must go to SMEs. Brazil has something similar, South Africa has something similar. Today we have something that gives preference to national companies, and we believe most of them are SMEs. But we need to make sure that more of the SMEs sell to government, and that we put our money where our mouth is, and that way to encourage them.
The Minister of Information and Communication Technology, ICT, Mrs. Omobola Johnson, in her remarks, stated that the summit is aimed at discussing mechanisms for developing SMEs in the ICT sector and also to use ICT to catalyze industry into inclusive economic growth and job creation.
I think, first of all, is for the SMEs in this room, is to inform and educate you about the benefits of ICTs in your business. The second thing we'd like to be able to do is to really demonstrate to you in a tangible manner how ICTs can actually be a path to the elusive capital that you seek. Because whenever you talk to an SME, the biggest thing on their mind is that I can't get money. I can't get finance. The banks won't give me money. I can't get, so everybody's friends, family, and fools kind of thing. But this is really a path to the capital that you need. And that's the link, again, between what we're doing in Comtech and what industry-created investment are doing. Thirdly, like I said, we do want to showcase the technologies and the tools that are being developed specifically for SMEs. And, Airtel, dare I say it, MTN, Computer Warehouse Group, they're doing a tremendous amount of work in making SMEs more accessible and relevant to SMEs. And it's very important for us to hear from you how you think these ministries can help you to leverage ICTs, empower you to do better, to do more than you're doing today. We're doing a lot of things to improve local content, to make sure that content on the internet is relevant for you as MCTs, as SMEs. We're doing a lot of things to ensure that internet access is affordable. We're making sure that you can get that internet access in parts of the country where are being neglected today, and where we have found have actually tremendous, they may not be commercially viable for a network operator, but they are also economically active. There are many SMEs in these environments, and we need to ensure that we get the network out to them. But I guess I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing now. But we do want to hear from you what you would like to see or to see government doing to encourage ICT, to encourage you to use ICTs in your business and to support you in the growth and the development of your businesses. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Johnson also highlighted some of the challenges faced by investors and the measures being taken by the ministry to provide a long-lasting solution.
So what are we doing about it? We started talking to state governments. This is enlightened self-interest. If you keep talking about, every state now, wherever you go in Nigeria, we want to be the ICT state, we want to be the digital state. And we said, you cannot be the digital state if you don't have infrastructure. So what you should do is not to tax the investment, tax these investments at the point where you're making the investment, which is the infrastructure. What you do is to tax the businesses who grow out of this infrastructure. So if you allow us to build this infrastructure, you get more SMEs, they're more productive, they make more money. Then you can tax legally the revenue that they make. And you get the same amount, but even more in our calculations than just taxing these investments. So working with the state government, Lagos State has done a landmark agreement with them, which is where they have actually slashed the cost of right-of-way, they standardized the cost of the taxes on base stations, and this is very important. We've got 3 other states that have signed up with us now, and this is what we call the Smart State Initiative. Anambra State, Ondo State, Gombe State, I think Katsina State, we're waiting for one more, have all said that we will do everything in our power as state governors and state governments to enable or to facilitate the rollout of ICT infrastructure. This has been very difficult because when you look at what the states do, they all need money. They need IGR. So with the exception of Lagos State that generates quite a lot of IGR from the taxes and the companies that are there, many states, the only way they get money is the federal allocation and the little bits they get from local government. So we've got them to a point where at least some of them are model states and they're thinking this way. And so with that, we hope that we can actually roll out the internet much quicker than we're doing today.
Other panelists drawn from banking, ICT, and other relevant sectors gave credence to the discussions by sharing their experiences.
The first thing we did was, in our new model, to go into partnership with one of the big telecoms, it's not here, Michael, of MTN, to provide microfinance banks with a system, or democratize, as the HM Comtech said, to democratize technology that they can use to provide banking services to these SMEs, because they're typically the ones that bank the SMEs. But they were hampered. They couldn't afford very expensive systems. They couldn't afford the high cost of a full IT department. And then we took that off them, and so they used the product that we have, Christian MTN SaaS, to do exactly what the banks will use technology to do. But we went further to touch the SMEs themselves rather than indirectly through the microfinance banks. And we have an application which we call SMERP, or you could call it CWG 2.0. And rather than being vertical, it's horizontal. Rather than being horizontal, it's vertical. Horizontal means you just tell people I have servers that you can come and use, or you could come and put your servers in my data center. No. What this is we look at, for instance, spare parts dealers, retail and trade, hospitals, hotels, and we develop applications for them that run their business end to end.
We certainly are bringing in fantastic solutions in India for the SMEs in a variety of ways, not only connecting multiple locations, but importantly, now giving them cloud services. We hope we will be able to bring these fantastic tools and services into Nigeria and other African countries as well. We are committed, we are here for long term, we have made significantly large investments, and it is really therefore our duty to ensure that this part of the industry and economy, which is very important for any country, is served by the ICT industry, in particular the mobile telecom industry. I would say we are doing a lot, but perhaps not enough. We need to deepen our penetration in 3G. We need to roll out more 3G networks in the country, and eventually be prepared in the next 3, 4, 5 years to move over to LTE, which is the 4G technology, and ensure that the larger files, larger interactivity on internet are all available, seamless, real-time, across the buyer-seller locations to ensure that SMEs are connected towards the raw material on one side and the markets on the other side.
The Chief Executive Officer of Stanbic IBTC, Mrs. Shola David Boha, enjoined all stakeholders to work together in addressing the issue of financial constraints of SMEs in the country.
If we all collectively focus on trying to solve it together, we can make progress. We've seen that in agriculture, where we brought all the stakeholders together, and came up with NERSAL. It's one step in the right direction, because the reality is there are risks. So don't let's pretend we don't have risks. SMEs who are willing to subject themselves to governance are part of some productive business that is generating cash. In a particular cycle, whatever the cycle is, as long as you can kind of track it, they will get the financing. It's very important that you get the right type of financing for your need. Very, very important. Because what tends to happen is, you take a short-term loan for a longer-term need, or, you get the wrong mix, and that results in the wrong outcome. But banks, I can assure you, are looking for credible SMEs to lend to. Thank you.
During the interactive session, various issues were raised by the participants in respect of the development of rural dwellers, especially women, and also the development of SMEs in the ICT sector, which the two ministers eloquently addressed.
On the women initiative, at BOI, I'm glad we acknowledge that there's funding for women. I think there's a 5 billion which is managed by BOI, which are going to be for women only. In addition to that, I'm surprised to talk about rural areas, because one of the programs on that NEDEM is called OLOP. OLOP is one local government, one product. So we're going down to the local government to see areas where they're competitive. And I think SMEDAM today, how many cooperatives have you set up?
31,000.
31,000 cooperatives. So we set up 31 cooperatives going around each. We're going to each of the 1,000. We're going to each of the 774 local governments to look at products where they have competitive advantage. So if you look at Kura, for example, Kura is good in rice production and dried tomatoes, for example. We've done pilot programs in 2 states already. So we're scaling this out. And the idea is that SMEDAM set up the cooperatives, help them with their business plan production, work with the states, BOI, provide the lending, and directly or through microfinance institutions.
We're doing a lot to grow the capacity of the SMEs in the ICT sector so that you can actually work with those SMEs. There's nothing worse for me to hear that you're hosting your applications outside of this country, because by doing that, you're taking jobs outside of Nigeria and you're giving them to other countries. There's something worse to hear that you're buying applications that are not developed locally. And we do have some of these applications. One young man that graduated out of our tech hub in March was able to raise $10 million because he developed software that was very relevant to this market, financial transaction authentication, because of the amount of fraud that we have. He raised $10 million simply by being in a hub, being showcased, developing good software, getting mentored, and that's what we're trying to do. So having an ICT SME sector that is strong, that is robust, and that can actually support SMEs in other sectors.
There was also a testimonial by Dr. Mrs. Ladi Sambu, popularly referred to as Mama Share Butter, whose product and business have been recognized by President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan at various exhibitions.
Bosa 4 is Bank of Industry. Why? They came to my state. My governor was able to put in their own percentage. So the cooperative in Niger State, most of them, the rural women, the shea butter producers, the kuli producers, they are getting this money. That's the only bank that I know in Nigeria that has gone to the grassroots. But all the banks is for the elite, is for capitalists.
Those were the highlights of the SME Summit of the World Economic Forum that was organized by the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment and the Ministry of Information and Communications Technology for the development of SMEs through their respective portfolios. In subsequent editions of this program, we shall bring you the urgent steps being taken by the two development partners and the various activities to develop and grow SME sector in the country. It's on this note that we'll conclude this week's edition of Wealth Creation through Industrialization. I am Hadiza Olaosebikan. Good night and God bless.